Let's go. Get in here. Get in here right now. Get in here. Hey, we got 30 minutes for the rest of our lives. 30 minutes for the rest of our lives. That's our battle first down. It happens. We get the ball. I promise you one thing. We're going to hit somebody and we're taking downfield for a touchdown. I guarantee you that.
Hello, Spartan Nation, and welcome back to the Spartan Nation Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Savetic, and I'm bringing you today some interviews from Austin Goddard, Colin Wagner, and your North Newton head coach for football, Scott Rao. But first, let's get into last week's game. So, the week before, North Newton has a heartbreaking loss to KV of a score 13-12 that came down to the last play of the game on a 2-point conversion that ended up being no good. But with homecoming around the corner, the weather breaking really good, North Newton comes on homecoming and completely dominates West Central. West Central could not do anything until the fourth quarter where they finally scored a touchdown and got the 2-point conversion. But it was all North Newton all day. Offense, defense, there's nothing that could possibly have gone wrong in that game. And from past years to see the team as itself hold on to the ball so much better, and you're going to hear later in the podcast of Coach Rao talking about how the ability for them to hold on to the ball and force turnovers is a big key to success in last week's win. North Newton puts up 55 points in this game, only giving up 8 points. We're going to go ahead and we're going to look at individual stats. We're going to look at the passing, the rushing, receiving, and so on and so forth. But when we get into passing, Austin Goddard threw 10 times. 9 of those passes were complete for 92 yards with a completion percentage of 90. He averaged 10.2 yards a throw with 1 touchdown and having a long of 27. Our top 3 rushers in this game were Colin Wagner at 22 carries for 195 yards, 8.9 a carry, 48 yards long, and 4 touchdowns. Austin Goddard also had 8 carries, 83 yards for 10.4 yards and a long of 53 with 1 touchdown. And our third is Cade Ellinger on 6 carries, 68 yards with 11.3 average and a long of 30 with 1 touchdown. As a team total, North Newton had 40 carries on 385 yards, 9.6 yards a carry, and an average of 53 long, with a total of 7 touchdowns. Now let's get into our top 2 receivers. At number 1, we have Dylan Taylor at 3 receptions on 42 yards, an average of 14 yards a catch, of a long of 26. Vince Taylor had 4 receptions, 38 yards, and a 9.5 average per catch, a long of 15 and 1 touchdown. A team total of 9 receptions, 92 yards, 10.2 yards per catch, with a long of 26 and 1 touchdown. When we look at total offensive yards, we have a pass of 92, and rush of 385, a reception of 92. That's kind of all the same. The passing and the reception kind of go along the same way. But for a total of 477 yards, an attack on all-purpose yards of 493. Dylan Taylor came in with the lone interception. Elijah Durantolo was 5 for 5 on kicks. And we're going to run through all the people that scored a touchdown. Austin Goddard scores 1, Vince Taylor scores 2, Cade Ellinger scores 1, Colin Wagner scores 4. With this win, North Newton goes 3-2 on the year and 1-0 in conference. But before we get into analytics of Frontier, we're going to get to the interviews with 2 of the players and the coach. But we're going to kick things off by talking to senior running back Colin Wagner. And here's my interview with him.
This change at halfway through the Rensselaer game, Colin, how did you feel from going from a quarterback back to your old position as a fullback / running back?
I was probably more comfortable switching back to a running back. We practice all off-season as me quarterbacking, but just actually doing it in the game was a lot different, and I wasn't totally used to it yet. But when they put Austin at quarterback and they put me back at running back, I just felt more comfortable, and I was able to do my job better, I felt.
So with that comfortability, I see that your numbers are starting to go up. Even receiving yards are starting to kind of go up. Is that kind of a motivation for you, being your senior year as well, some more motivation in your aspect of getting more things done and maybe potentially winning another sectional?
Yeah, I'm not really trying to just do anything for stats. I just trying to do stuff for the team. I mean, I'm going to run hard every time. I'm not doing it individually. I'm just playing for the team and just going out, just try to get every win possible. So.
All right, then with that, I know at the end of baseball season, or most of baseball season, you had a knee injury. It was a cyst or something in your knee. Can you clarify that injury so I'm not getting that wrong?
What was that? It was a bursa sac on my knee. So like, there's like a little thing inside your knee, and it produces fluid. And if you damage that, it'll produce more fluid than your knee needs, and it'll swell up really big like a balloon. And then it happened during wrestling season. I dropped to the mat really hard and injured it. And then all through baseball season, it hadn't gotten better. So during the off season, it had pretty much gone away. I just still had to baby it just to some. And then at the beginning of the football season, it was pretty much gone, and I'm back to 100%.
Okay, well, that's good. Any special treatment you had to do in the off season? Anything to work harder since you were sitting out most of the time? But even with the knee injury, were you able to still kind of work out during baseball season?
Yeah, I could do everything the same. I just kind of had to just take it easy, like if we did like lunges or anything, make sure I didn't hit the ground with my knee, or just if we like went down on our knees and doing stretches and stuff, I just take it easy with that. But I could pretty much lift and do everything the same as even if I didn't have an injury. Okay,
with that being said, we're going to kind of wrap up the interview with you, but what is your goal personally and for a team for the end of the season?
Win conference, win sectional, and I want to be all-state. So those are my goals.
All right, well, you heard it right there, Spartan Nation. That was Colin Wagner, your running back.
And here's my interview with junior quarterback Austin Goddard.
And now we're going to move over to number 2, the now quarterback, Austin Goddard. Austin, when did you, or what should I say, during the off-season at all, did you practice being a quarterback at all?
Not really. About week 1, I went into quarterback and started practicing there, going through reps and stuff.
Okay, so when your name was called to be a quarterback, were you a little bit nervous in the first game, obviously being against Rensselaer, so a bigger team that's more physical? What were your nerves like? What was going through your head in that moment?
I was nervous, but once I came and started playing, it felt natural.
So going back through gameplay and game tape, looking at passing stats have gone up so much since last year. Your last game, you had 92 yards and you were 9 for 10 with a touchdown. What is contributing? Is that just natural to you, just to kind of be able to see what's going on in the field, or is it because you're that threat of being able to scramble so more receivers are open? What are you seeing out in the field that's giving you the opportunity to throw the ball?
It's a little bit of both, and the receivers have big targets. All of them are fast, all tall.
Okay, so who's your favorite target to throw to?
Vince
Taylor?
Yeah.
I've seen he's made a couple of those nice one-handed grabs. I know against I believe it was North Judson, he had that one-handed catch up the sideline. Also on top of that, I've seen you returning kicks, you play defense. What do you prepare during the week as far as conditioning, or do you ever really get tired, or you're generally running so much that you don't really think about being tired?
I run really good at practice and just work all week really hard, so I'm prepared in the game.
Okay, even between you and Colin, your passing stats, you have over 600 yards together. Your completion percentage is over 600. That's something that hasn't been here for a while in North Newton, and for you guys just to kind of step in and to be a team effort together is really amazing. So wrapping up with this interview, what's your personal goal and what is the team goal for the end of the year?
The team goal is to win conference and sectionals, and my goal is pass for 700 yards.
Okay, well, you're I would say under 200 yards to that point, so you can get there. You just keep throwing the ball to wide open receivers. And is the running game, I guess I'll have to ask this one more question, but is the running game really helping you open up your pass game?
Yeah, it opens up the screens a lot. Having a run threat opens it all up.
Okay, well, there you go, Spartan Nation. That is your quarterback, Austin Goddard, with your running back, fullback / however you want to call it, Colin Wagner. I thank you guys, and I hope you on the best of luck against Frontier next week.
And before I get into a conversation with Scott Raw, I got to tell a little funny story. I come after practice on Tuesday, and me and him sit down. We're just talking about the season, talking about a bunch of other things, and he says I would say about 45 minutes later, he goes, all right, I'm gonna go home. Like, can I get the interview in real quick? So it's just kind of a funny thing, and he asked, why wasn't this rolling during it? But here is my interview with Coach Rao. I'm here with head coach of the North Newton Spartans, Scott Rao. How are you doing this evening, Scott?
I'm doing fine, Kyle. Thank you very much.
So this is your second year, first full year with the summer and not having, being under Jeff Bean. This is your full first year. I know with some changes that happened during the school year with superintendent, AD, how has that affected the summer as far as your game plan?
Well, it didn't affect it too much, luckily, because, with the changeover in the administration and all those spots, there was really nobody here but us. So they allowed us, we were able to do a lot of different things and do things, that we wanted to do. We were able to get our plan in as we changed the offense a little bit to try to do a little different things. We were able to get kids in the summer, and we got the weight program went really well. Because we continued it from the winter on to the spring, and like you said, the first full year where we had it, where I could do what we wanted to do exactly. We didn't change a lot, but it went really, really well.
Okay, well, we're going to go back to the past a little bit here. This interview is going to be a kind of a mixture of your past, what the past weeks have been like, and then the future. So, where did you played high school, you played in college? Where did you play those times at?
Okay. High school, I played at Lewis Cass High School over in Cass County, north central Indiana. Played there, and then from high school was able to get a scholarship and went down to Western Kentucky University down in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and got to play 4 years there, which was a great opportunity. After my playing days was over, I was still finishing up school, so I coached at a local high school there for a couple years as an assistant. Had graduated finally with my education degree, and applied to be the head coach at Lewis Cass because they had an opening at that time. Lewis Cass, they hired Scott Mayering at that time, who then called me to see if I'd be interested in coming up there and being an assistant, because they still had that teaching opening available. Not knowing him, I didn't know him at all at that time. It turned out to be a really good decision on my part, because I came back to Cass, coached there for 26 years, 21 of them being the defensive coordinator there. We had several years of success and enjoyed it immensely. They then cut the business department out at the high school, so then I ended up losing that position. So I spent a year out of teaching, actually trying to find another teaching job. And during that time, I worked as an assistant coach at Pioneer for the 1 year under Mike Johnson, which went very well. And then was able to find the position here at North Newton. They were looking for a business teacher and a football coach, and applied and got the job here. Been here since then.
Okay, so I know in the past, even when I was in high school, the program wasn't known for winning. The environment wasn't one of the best. I mean, even the crowds, parents or fans really didn't really pay attention to the game. They just kind of came for, interacting with the, students themselves, whatever. But from your beginning here until now, what has the environment been like?
Well, we've worked really hard at trying to change that environment, and the number one, when I came here the first year, was trying to understand setup. I grew up in a rural school like this. I went to high school in a rural school like this. I've coached at a rural school like this almost my entire career, both places in Kentucky and here. They're both rural schools, so I know the kind of kids that are involved, and it's just a matter of, if you can get them to play hard, to where their effort is always good, you're going to be competitive at this level of football. And that was the number one thing that we preached, and that I've constantly talked about all 6 years I've been here, is I don't want to have to coach effort because nothing else will matter then. We want to coach technique and that, and trying to build a little pride in the program, and we've been able to do that. In the last several years, we've had 3 winning seasons in a row, and we're looking to get a 4th one here. They haven't had that much. We're looking to get a 2nd conference championship and a 2nd sectional championship since I've been here. So we've gotten 1 each of those, and we're trying to add to those. And the kids have bought in for the most part. They now expect to win most of the games when they go into it. And I hopefully understand that that stuff doesn't just happen. I mean, you're not entitled to win. You're going to have to work for it, and you're going to have to get better. And we try to work to get better every day to get ourselves ready for the end of the season.
Okay, so now going into the season itself, you're 3-2, 1-0 in the conference. The 2 losses were against Rensselaer and KV being a 4A school, and you were 1 point away from actually winning, and actually 1 play away from winning that game. In that sense, when the play happened, what was going through after you scored the touchdown, what was going through your guys' head as a coaching staff to figure out if you were just going to tie it or if you were going to end up trying to win the game?
Well, we got to that last drive after they had scored on us, and we got the ball, and we had a minute 4 to go from the 20. You had to go 80 yards in a minute 4, and we made a couple plays, and the next thing I know, we're out across midfield. And I said on my headphones, I told the offense coordinator, Coach Newton, that, we have a 2-point play ready because when we score here at the end, we're going to go for the win because in my mind, and I didn't go through this all with him, but in my mind I was already thinking I'm not sure we could win in overtime because we're tired. I just thought we were starting to wear out and wear down defensively because of the way they drove on us there at the end. They just ran over us. So I said, I don't think I'm going to be able to stop them from 10 yards. So we want to make sure, I said, we're going to take this opportunity to win the game. So, going in, I knew before we ever got down there that's what we were going to do. So now after we scored, we're talking on the headphones, and I came up with the play that we're going to run because I kept thinking, I said, they're all going to be keying on Colin. So I said, let's try to, we'll ride him in, pull it out, and I'll get Goddard on the edge to give him the run-pass option, either to run it in or toss it in to two of our taller guys. And Dylan Taylor and Kate Ellinger out there, both 6'3", 6'4", get it up in the air to them, see if they can come up with it, And unfortunately, it didn't work. We didn't get the end blocked, and Austin didn't have an opportunity to get outside, so he had to throw it a lot quicker than he wanted, and they did a nice job of covering it. And I told somebody else, I said, afterwards, I didn't sleep very well that night because then I probably screwed up. You have like 14 other plays that come into your mind after the one you chose didn't work. Okay, that one didn't work. I probably should have done this, probably should have done this, probably should have done that. Could have spread him out, just toss it to Colin, see if he could find his way in there. We had talked about doing that, but I didn't think it was possible because we hadn't had much luck with that. We weren't blocking very well on the perimeter, and I didn't think. Plus, I thought they would all fly to him anyway, so we wouldn't have much of an opportunity to get in. And sometimes you think maybe I just overthought it. Just give it to your best player and see what happens. But I thought, and we had done that play before in the game, and it had worked. So I thought, here's an opportunity. I thought they'd all be charging in to Colin, and good, but it didn't work. And I'll take the blame for that. I made the call, and that's I was going for the win, and I thought that was our best chance of winning that game was to do it right then.
Okay, now kind of looking into the season, looking at last week, you played West Central at West Central. It was here. It was here. It was here. It seemed like West Central couldn't do anything offense or defensively until about the fourth quarter when they scored a touchdown late. But going off of that, what are some improvements that you saw from week to week going up to that game, or what could I say, what did you take good away from the game, and what do you think you need to improve on for this week against Frontier?
Well, again, I've said this several weeks. I'm really impressed with our ability to take care of the football. We haven't had a lot of turnovers, and we've started getting turnovers. And we've stressed that. Defensively, we need not just stops, but we'd like to get turnovers so that we put the offense in a good position. And against West Central, we were able to do that. They started with the ball on their side of the 50 most of the time, and we were able to drive down and score and take advantage of every time. So the positives were, we're taking care of the ball. We're cutting down our penalties, all the things that we preached about that you got to do that hurt us in, like the Rensselaer game, or that hurt us in the other games. Can't afford all them penalties. So we did that really, really well. Defensively, again, I thought we did a really nice job of controlling the line of scrimmage and getting a lot of bodies to them. That's the key, the gang tackling and getting a lot of people there. Don't count on one-on-one tackles because, every school's got guys that are pretty good players, so their running backs can break tackles and do things too one-on-one. But if you get 3 or 4 guys there, it's kind of disheartening. And I think, especially the way we started, I think that some of it, at some point there, they kind of lost interest in really doing much. And I know that would be disappointing for them and their coach, but, it just looked that way to me when we were playing. But I'm proud of the way our kids did. I thought we came out of the gate with a little bit of an attitude after the loss at KV that we were going to do. It was homecoming, so everybody's excited. So practice went well that week for a homecoming week, which I was really surprised. Coming off a loss, homecoming week, sometimes the brains aren't really there, but we had a really good week of practice that last week, and it showed on Friday night.
Now moving into Frontier, they changed their style of offense. Normally you were seeing the spread option kind of style. Now you're seeing more of a pro style or an I-back. With their two-headed monster, kind of, you would say, for their fullback and their tailback, are they going to be a major concern? Are they a team that could probably hurt you if you make mistakes? Oh,
yes. Definitely. They're going to do what they do. Coach Burgess come in, and they're going to know what they're doing. They got a big fullback, a good hard-running tailback, a quarterback that's very capable of either running or throwing. We're going to have to, control the line of scrimmage on them. It's a little bit different style, but it's kind of it's old school. They're going to line up in the pro I, and they're going to come at us and sometimes go with trips and do some other things. But for the most part, it comes down to high school. In high school football, to win, you got to be able to run the football, and you got to be able to stop the run. So we're going to have to be able to stop the run and then have our ability to run the football when we want and how we want. So I don't, as far as any new problems, the only thing is I could say, they may come out and do more other stuff. I don't know. So far in what we've seen, he's going to do the pro I and a little bit of trips, and that's what they're going to do.
Okay. One thing I've taken away from this season versus past seasons is your ability to pass the ball. Yes, you made a switch with Colin Wagner for Austin Goddard, but even both of them had pretty good percentage in passing. I think Colin feels a little bit more comfortable being the full-time running back / fullback, and Goddard getting put in this role. Even last week he had 10 pass attempts he completed 9 of them for 92 yards and 1 touchdown pass. You guys are already at 600 yards passing, which I haven't seen in half of it, up to a half a season in years. So what is the ability, is it the years of being able to run the ball so effectively, or is it having someone who can kind of get out of the pocket, or is it just being in the shotgun is able you guys to pass more?
Well, I think it's a combination of all those things. I think having him back off the line obviously helps and gives you a little bit more time to do what you need to do, but the other things are there too, because you got Colin Wagner in the backfield that most teams are worried about him running the football, so you have a lot of concentration that's off the pass. And then on top of that, with Dylan Taylor and Vince Taylor, you got 2 guys that are really doing a nice job catching the football and doing things. Vince is really fast, so a lot of time he takes the top off, and they got to really get back off the deep. And Dylan's doing a really nice job of going and getting the ball when we throw it up. I'm not, there's a couple times where he just throws it up, and those guys go make a play. But Austin's done a really good job. His biggest attribute for him is his confidence level. He doesn't lack for confidence. He believes he can make every play, and a lot of times that's the kind of guy you need, And then you teach him, what not to do, I don't have to teach him what to do because he thinks he can do everything. So you have to kind of pull him back on that. But he's done a fantastic job jumping in leadership-wise and all that, and running things and understanding what's going on, and getting people in the right spot, and running that offense. We've had very little penalties on motion penalties or other stuff, and they're taking care of things. And I'm really pleased with him, and he gives us that new option. He is a threat. Whether it's running the football or throwing the football, he becomes another threat that they got to worry about, which helps us offensively. And I think with us going to a more spread look offensively, it has opened up some things. They don't quite jam up the box as much, and it's opened up stuff for the run and those kind of things. So, all that stuff's helped.
Well, thank you for your time, and also want to say thank you for years of experience for coaching for me, being under you and learning so much from you guys, and for allowing me to pursue a career in media and leaving the football team and coming back and interviewing you. I really appreciate it, and I thank you for your time in doing that.
Well, no problem there. I mean, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciated when you were here coaching and working with the kids and doing the things that you were doing. And I appreciate, this is really good for the program, and it's really good for high school sports in general to get some coverage for these kids. And, the way, I know you're doing it I don't know how you're doing it because I don't know anything about the technology. So, but it's going to be fantastic. So I've already had some kids that said they saw the preview and they really liked it, and it's going to be, I think it'll be a really good thing.
Yeah, well, you'll be able to find that on Facebook. Don't worry, I've tagged your wife in the video, so you'll get to see those. So there it is, Spartan Nation. That is your head coach Scott Rao for North Newton Spartans football.
Now looking at Frontier, who's 4-1 on the season and 2-0 in conference play. Frontier opened the season up against Anderson Prep Academy, and they won 44-0. The second game against North White, and that was a win of 30-22. Then a win against South Newton, 38-0. They win against Clinton Central, 22-6, and their first loss comes to Trader Point Christian, 55-12. Now, with that being said, as you can see, if you kind of roll back through the teams that they beat, obviously North Newton easily handing South Newton. Haven't played North White yet, but North White has been on a down year. Clinton Central was probably at the beginning of that game, looked very close. I just don't think that Frontier has the size, but yet again, this team can easily key off mistakes. We're going to look at their two key running backs, or I should say their fullback and their tailback on the team that have been producing the most yards for them. That will be Caleb Atkinson, and the second one is going to be Trevor Gerard. I butchered that name, and I fully apologize. They're number 2 and number 22 out in the field when you see them. Atkinson is the fullback, and Trevorin is the tailback. They have switched from a spread option, not a spread option, but a spread team to more of that pro style eye that you see in the pros, or just that one back in the back, and they kind of motion the tailback over on jet sweeps. Not big into passing, but yet their quarterback has a good enough arm to hit open receivers. So for the defensive side of things, they need to be able to cover and read their keys in order to be successful. Now, if you remember 2 years ago, when they played Frontier, it was very, very hot that game. But if it's hot like that again, the one thing North Newton has over Frontier is not a lot, but enough numbers and I believe size to kind of wear them down. So North Newton fans, don't be afraid if it's a close game at halftime. I still think North Newton is going to be able to pull this out. I think they'll be able to pull it out easily. So some of those JV players that haven't really had a season this year, and that's kind of a disappointment because the Midwest Conference is lacking in that numbers, and also only having like 12 people on the JV squad kind of sucks. But for those JV players, I say you have to stick through with it. You got to be able to stick through because you have so much to be looking forward to when you hit the varsity level. I mean, you're part of a program that has been winning, that has made it to 3 conference championships and has one of those, who's won a sectional title. who could have a chance of winning the sectionals if everything kind of comes together. But yes, the sectionals this year are very hard, with Andrean, Boone Grove, and Rensselaer all being in the sectional. But that's down in the future. We don't want to look too much into that. But I'm gonna leave you with that. I think Northern's gonna walk away with this easily. I'm gonna say it's about. I'm gonna say about 56 to 12. I'll give Frontier a little slack. I'm not gonna give them a complete shutout. I think that they can key off some mistakes. So I'm gonna go with 56 to 12 as the final score of this one down in Chalmers, Indiana. And I believe North Newton will go 4-2 and 2-0 in the conference. I'm Kyle Savetic, and this has been Spartan Nation Podcast. Be sure to like the page and share with friends and family, and make this thing. I want to get it kind of going so I can cover more sports. I had someone Tuesday talk to me actually about doing a girls golf because they ended up winning sectionals. So I'm gonna try to get in contact with the coach and see if I can get some interviews going. If you want, for football wise, if you want to nominate a offense and defensive player. Just be sure to leave in the comments below what you who you think it is, and I will kind of mumble things up together, and I will throw that out for you. If you want me to cover any other sports, let's try to get this thing going so that way I can have the time and effort to do that. I do have to have disclaimer. I don't work. I intern at Region Sports. I'm still going through school. I have 2 months left in school, so if I don't get around to a sport or I don't get around to certain things, I apologize, but that's just the way life is, and this is the first kind of official episode, so I'm trying to get things going. I appreciate every feedback that I get. All of you guys are great so far, but that's going to do it for me. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night, rest of your evening, whenever you're watching this, and catch you in the next Spartan Nation podcast.
Hey, let's go! Get in here! Get in here right now! Get in here! Hey, we got 30 minutes for the rest of our lives! 30 minutes for the rest of our lives! That's our bad first down. It happens. We get the ball. I promise you one thing. We're going to hit somebody and we're taking downfield for a touchdown. I guarantee you that.